Hey, Trucker Steve here again. Many schools, CDL schools across the United States, are great schools. Most of them are darn good. And they don't put profit ahead of giving a quality education, CDL education. You're paying big bucks, paying $5,000 to $10,000 to learn how to drive a tractor trailer school, to take the next step. You want to improve your life. You want to do good for your family and your kids. So you enter CDL schools. Most students don't really do the homework like they should do. They get recruited in by the recruiter at the school or whoever they're talking to, and they talk them in. Let's go. We are the best school out here. Come to our school. And look, they in there to make a profit. They gotta bring them in. But some schools are, let's face it, are poor and bad schools. So what should you do? So we're going to give you some tips on what you as a student can do to be successful at a bad or poorly run CDL school. Now let's get it straight. Some students are quick learners. They pick up things pretty darn quick. And they're very aggressive out there on the range. So, and also some of them had experience backing up trailers, utility trailers, RVs, etc. So they have a step up on everyone else in the class. So if you have 50 students and 25 of them who if they had that ability to back up items, they'll be okay. They're going to excel and they'll do okay, and they'll get their license and they'll be happy. And they'll be happy with the school. That doesn't make that much difference. But there are a good percentage of the students who never backed up a tractor or trailer, who really need instructions. They paying big bucks and they want good instructions. So hopefully the good students will be mentors to the poor students if they're not getting it from the school itself or from instructors. Tip number one, seek help from those students who are pretty darn good in your class, the leaders, the top tier of the class. Seek their help. And they probably love to help you. Many poor schools, you see, instead of seeing an instructor out there, you see students out there teaching students. Hopefully during the classroom session, you will form appoint someone as a class leader, president, or something like that. So that leader, the people who are good talkers or go-getters, will help speak up and protect. And all students should protect each other. Your CDL class, tip number 2, is a family. Support each other. Encourage those who need help to get it. A good range leader in the class is so important. If you're a range leader, ahead of the class, and you see someone not getting any help, bring it to the attention of the school or the instructor. Say, look, so-and-so down here is not getting help, and can you talk to her? Can you give her a little bit of time? Some students shy and stay on this back, on the back in the back, and they got to be give a little nudge or push. It is the responsibility of the school to make sure they know every student in that class and who needs help. If that student is not getting help, then the school's not doing their job, and whoever's on the range is not doing the job. So if you are in a bad school, you would know it within the first couple weeks, really. You should document and record as much information as possible. Video, put little videos and save that video clip. You need to show why and prove it, why you're not receiving the training that you're paying for. So a student comes to me and come down to me and it says, and here's some of the complaints that might come in. My range has 3 lanes and is well over 20 to 25 students, or maybe 30 students, or whatever. It's too many for that number. 3 lanes, 25 students. The time starts at 7 o'clock and ends at 12. The math doesn't add up, right? You're not going to get much time behind on your range skills practice. It's been 3 weeks I've been on the range and only had 3 or 4 days out on the road. That's a problem. You're not getting the road time that you should be getting. Every other day you should be on the road, every other day. If it's a fairly large group, every other day you should be on the road. That's what you're paying for. Or there's not enough tractors to go around. You know, you only have 3 lanes, maybe 2 tractors that are operating, a couple in the shop. You're not going to go and get a rental. And some of the trucks are just in poor condition. That's not good. So we have 25 students or more on the range and only 2 instructors. Sometimes it can work. If the 2 instructors are outstanding and really good, sometimes they can make it work. But it should be a good ratio between students and instructors. The instructors are not on range teaching students who need help. So those are students who are falling behind. They need to catch up. But basically, because it's poor organization, those instructors have no idea because they don't keep the proper record. They don't know so-and-so students are doing good, and these 4, 5, 10 students are struggling. They need help. If it's not recorded or a daily log about which student needs help, it's not going to work. You're going to have problems. I was given a DMV or NVA test date with very little road time and cannot shift. But I want to be a manual. I want to drive a manual. I came here and paid the money. I wanted to be taught how to drive a manual. But because I'm not getting the road time, I'm forced to be an automatic. They put the restriction on my license. Document it, record it. I go out on the road for 30 minutes, and the instructor puts down an hour that I was with him for an hour. But I only was behind the wheel for about 30 minutes or less. Do not sign any kind of documents that he might give you for your road time. Say, here, initial this. If it look at it. If he put down that you was at an hour, and you know darn well you was only out there for about 30 minutes, that's a problem. You make sure you put a notation that says, sir, you need to change that. I only been behind the wheel for 30 minutes. Don't put an hour down. The instructors, every time I go down, the instructors keep taking out the students who can shift, and passes over to students who need help. So a lot of instructors, they're not getting paid that. Hopefully they're getting paid well. But a lot of schools don't pay their instructors well. And they say, well, I'm not going to deal with that student who can't shift. I'll just take out Mr. John out there who's good, and I can have a real good time. Or the instructor's constantly on the phone. You're trying to learn how to drive, and he's on his phone. That is not good. Okay. Tip number 4, you have to do your part. You cannot complain about the problems that I just talked about. You need to do your part. You need to show up every single day. You need to never turn down any driving time behind a vehicle. Do not say, well, I'm tired today, I'm not going to go on the road today. It'll be marked down on your driving card, student refused to go out on the road today. And when you argue, that's going to be brought up. Don't leave early. Stay until the end of the class. If the class starts, if the lunchtime comes in at 12 o'clock and everyone's leaving at 11:30, you make sure you stay there until 12. If it ends at 5 o'clock, 4 or 5 o'clock, you make sure you stay there at the end of the day. If these students are leaving early, that's your chance to get into the truck while all these other students are going home. Tip number 5, know who's in charge of that school. Some schools will have just an owner, it's just strictly CDL. And some schools will have many other parts of the school, welding class, diesel mechanics, and etc., building and trade, all that stuff will be within. So you have to know who's the director of education. You have to know who's the CDL director of the school. Sometimes you go to CDL director and you might not get the results you want. So don't be afraid to go in to see the director of education or the owner of the school. Make your voices heard. Don't sit on the side and complain. If there's an issue with the school, it's your money. You are the customer. Take charge. And don't quit until you get some satisfaction. If you don't get any satisfaction, document, record it. Write it down in the date that you talk to these people. So let's go back to the one who took a test or signed a test. The FMSCA website, if you look on that, It states the training provider must not issue the certification unless the CDL student, demonstrates proficiency in performing all required behind the wheel skills. There's no minimum requirement that you can be on the road, but you should be proficient in doing the skills. You should not be set up for a test to fail and then start owing the school $50, $100 for retest, and then you're charged. But the school didn't do their job, but you were there every single day, and they didn't do their job, didn't get you on the road enough so you can be proficient in these skills. They didn't give you your money's worth. So get as much information as possible. Do your part like we talked about. Make your voices heard. Reviews, put a review in. If you had one or two instructors that were great at the school, put a good review in for him too. Let's not be all bad reviews, but if the school deserves it, put the review in. And hopefully you have other students going to be backing you up on this. If it's just you going against a CDL school and you don't have no backup, that's the problem. Believe me, the school's going to do their homework. And if you can't support and back up your claims, then you don't have a leg to stand on. Don't let them come back to you and tell them it's all your fault that you failing. It's all your fault that you're not doing good. And if they have something to back that up, then you have problems. But make sure you come to school. You came there to get an education on how to drive a tractor trailer. Please also do your part, make your voices heard. And I pray that everyone in the school will pass. If you go to school, whatever state you are, pass. And also leave comments, subscribe. That would be a help too for me. And leave comments. If you already went to school, CDL schools, what is your opinion? What do students need to do if they are in a bad CDL school? How did you survive if you was in a bad CDL school? You probably was a little aggressive. I've seen very aggressive students and do very well. They just don't sit on the side and wait for someone to ask them to get in the truck. They are constantly in the truck, and they might overwhelm the weaker students who are waiting to get in, and they just jump in line. But there's all reasons. But a lot of former school students or students in school right now can be very helpful with your comments. So best to you. See you in the next run.